Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change, coming to you live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We also will have a podcast up for this right afterwards. If it's Tuesday, that can mean only one thing. Duane Long is here. For those of you watching, you see a picture of Orlando Pace and may be wondering why you don't see Duane. Very simple answer to that. There will be no more naked jaunts. If the police in Columbus can get an ID on Duane, we've got to keep that clandestine. Duane, how goes it this fine day?
Well, I'm here in my undisclosed location, hiding. But if I need to make a naked jaunt, I'm ready.
He is ready to throw his clothes off and get some fresh air. Obviously, it would be nice to do it now as Ohio has blessed us with a break from the freezing cold. We are obviously going to talk football. It's Duane, it's recruiting, it's team stuff, but we would be remiss if we did not say Ohio State's basketball team will play in the NCAA tournament tomorrow in the first round versus Loyola of Chicago. Very interesting matchup. Ohio State is a 7 seed, Loyola the 10 seed. We all know Loyola has had divine help over the years, and they are actually favored in some things, favored in some books, even in others. That lets you know how Ohio State has finished down the stretch. If you're looking for an interesting storyline, the point guard of Loyola, Keaton Norris, or is his brother, I can't remember. Keaton may play for Wright State, but they are Columbus kids. So this is his shot. He probably wanted an Ohio State offer, never got it. And you will see him get after it. So 12:15 tomorrow Eastern time, you can have lunch with the Buckeyes. Let's hope they really pick it up. Now, Duane, let's cover the topic of the day, and that is recruiting. Carnell Tate has been a big-time target for Ohio State for the entire recruiting cycle. The number one receiver in the class of 2023. There has been much crystal ball action on him towards Ohio State a few months ago, and then that died down as he started to want to take visits. He starts taking visits today, and he will be in South Bend to visit Notre Dame. However, Notre Dame aficionado Tom Loy has placed a crystal ball towards Ohio State. So that should be very encouraging. It looks like Brian Hartline will have a good chance to secure the number one receiver once again. There hasn't been much tape out there on Carnell Tate until recently. You've seen it. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm excited about it now, Dan. Is there the only film out there of him was as a freshman, and it just I'm thinking I just can't look at that and make any kind of determination. This he's grown up now. Well, just today I said let me take one more stab at this as we were waiting to do the show. And there was about 10 plays of his junior year. And you see why he's the number one receiver in the country. He's a real long kid, very athletic and very fast. They've got him doing kickoff returns. They got him doing punt returns. He plays the ball at its highest point like a big receiver, and he is. He's 6'2". Like I said, long athletic receiver. He's going to be a huge get. He is a naked jaunt caliber football player, let me tell you. So very excited about Carnell Tate coming this way. Let's hope that's just not a Tom Loy tactic. He, people accuse him of being a homer. Well, whether he is or not, he doesn't. Him saying that Ohio State leads, that's huge. And to nail this kid. Get him into the WAC, it would be huge.
No question. Very interesting. He plays for the South Florida Express 7-on-7 team. They were out in California this past weekend. He got to show his wares out there. First of all, it's just impressive that a kid at IMG is out playing in California. The comparison that was on there was Michael Irvin. So good gracious, that would be impressive. Michael Irvin had a decent career at Miami and with the Dallas Cowboys. I will remind you, this is a live podcast. If you want to submit questions, you can do so. We will answer them once we're done with some of the stuff we have on topic, but we have a number of questions, and we will get to them, including you, Ed Rogers. Let's talk about another guy that has been offered, and we will have an evaluation up by Mark Porter later today. It is an offensive lineman, and his name is Monroe Freeling, also from Florida. You got a chance to check him out. Give us your thoughts on the name Monroe Freeling.
I love this kid, Dan. I was building an offensive tackle, a left tackle. He would look like Freeling. He's long, really long kid. He's 6'6" or 6'7", and he's 280 pounds. I like the kids come in leaner and let Mick have them and add the proper kind of weight to them. Just like I got to throw this out there. Recently, they said Peyton Kirkland is looking at Miami and Florida State, I think, and I say good. I just am not impressed with that kid. He's way overweight. He's got no explosion. He doesn't move well. And then you look at Freeland, and you're like, why are you recruiting? What's the deal here? Why are you shouldn't want both of these kids are complete opposite. This kid, I'm telling you, we got a kid from Connecticut, is it? Olean.
Olas Alanen.
I'm trying to remember his name. Oh no, that's the guy I'm looking for. You take those two right there. Those are bookend tackles right there, and I would be happy with this class if we get those two guys right there.
Yeah, I think it's very likely they're going to get at least one of them. I don't think they're going to get Kirkland, so you're good in that respect. Let's talk about two running backs that just got offered and your vibes on them. Ironically, one from Florida, one from Texas. From Tampa, Anthony Jackson, and from Texas, Brian Jackson. I may have screwed those names up, but go ahead. I'm sorry. It's Brian Curry from Florida. It's Anthony Curry from Florida. Gracious. Yeah. And Brian Jackson from Texas. I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah. Curry's outstanding. Really impressed with him. He's an explosive back. He gets out there. Once he's in the open field, you're not going to catch him. So, but speed is always an extra with running backs. I just want the kid to get in, get through the line, make somebody miss. And if you got some speed, great. We're seeing that with the other kid. I like Jackson better. He's got shake and bake. I see his head on a swivel. He's got excellent vision. He cuts back. He's making people miss out there. There's no way you couldn't take Curry. You have to take him if he wants to come in. But if I had an opportunity to pick between them, I would take Jackson. They on their films, you see both of them catching passes. They don't fight the ball. Very natural catching the ball. And I think that's going to become very much a part of the Buckeye offense going forward. We're going to start throwing to the backs more under Ryan Day.
If we've learned anything now that we've gone live, it's that Sue Zabo is probably our most ardent supporter here. And she has a question. Those guys are 24. How would you compare them to 2023 target Richard Young, who I know Ohio State is definitely in the mix for? Her question is, where do we stand now with Richard Young? They're towards the front of the line. It's going to be a big-time decision for him between Alabama and some others. But how would you compare these dudes to Richard Young?
They're outstanding. They're 4.5 stars. Richard Young's a 5-star. Richard Young is the next great one coming out of high school. He is something special. Just physical specimen. He's a big kid, and it's just, and he's got the speed. He's got everything. He checks all the boxes. So if you've got to pick, hopefully you're going to get two of those guys, and one of them would definitely be Richard Young, and the other I would want Jackson. But Richard Young, no, they're not there with Richard Young. Let me tell you, he is some kind of. I just look at such a physical specimen as a running back. They're smaller these days. He isn't. He's a bigger kid. Just a big athletic kid. You know, you could throw him a linebacker. So yeah, Richard Young. He's the one you want to get if you can only get one.
Another thing working in their favor when it comes to Richard Young and running back in general is Travion Henderson got the ball very early. He starred, and he's making a ton of cash with the NIL. So that is definitely a marquee spot. Ohio State always is, a place you want to go play. Now that spot has turned into an even more attractive spot, given the fact that if you've read stories lately, Travion Henderson said he no longer has to have his mom work because he can support her with his NIL, which is awesome. For those of you listening to the podcast, we're going to take a quick break and come back. For those of you here live, you get to enjoy more Duane and Dan. All right, we are back. Duane, Ed Rogers has a question. How good or bad will Ohio State's D-line perform, and who are your top starters on the D-line this year?
Well, I don't understand why there seems to be some concern about the defensive line after what we saw last year. I know that there was some disappointment in Zach Harrison, but JTT is back. He had a really nice freshman year. Jack Sawyer had a nice year. They are going that first year to the second one. Dan, I know you've talked about this yourself, about how guys jump that first year into the second year. You really see guys become that much better. They just seem to take off. So I'm not really worried about that. You can throw JTT down inside. We got some couple of good freshmen. I'm not worried about the defensive line. Zach Harrison's going to be on one side. I think we're going to see JTT a lot on the other side. He seemed to be coming out first, and with this new defensive line, this new style, he's probably going to be the one that's at the top of the list because he can slide down inside easier than Jack Sawyer can. So you got so many options. I'm not worried about the defensive line. I just think it's more about making enough, having enough reps to keep him from hitting the portal. Really, I'm not concerned.
Need to be better at defensive tackle. Need to be better against the run. Let's see some more Tyleik Williams rather than just him flashing all over the place. Let's see some Mike Hall. They need to get better inside. I don't have any fear about defensive end. Like you said, Zach Harrison, JTT, Jack Sawyer. So it's JT, by the way. We're not supposed to say JTT. I apologize. That's habit. All right, Duane, next question. There's been some optimism among many Bucknutters that the offensive line will be better this year because the guards are expected to be Matthew Jones and Donovan Jackson, and those guys are more traditional guards. You like the idea of throwing tackles in at guard. You seem to be at odds with the rest of the crew. Make your point.
Well, I'm not at the odds of anybody who makes decisions. All over college football, coaches, they recruit tackles and move them down to guard. Why? Because more athletic. They're at tackle because they're more athletic. This thing about guards, it's and I've thrown the question out there. Somebody debate it with me. Why is guard at guard better than a tackle at guard? This has been going on at least at Ohio State since John Cooper. You recruit tackles and move them to guard. Do you remember the Miami team that Howard Schnellenberger took to a national championship? Howard Schnellenberger did not have an offensive lineman on his team. He recruited defensive linemen. He didn't recruit offensive tackles even. He recruited defensive linemen and moved them over to offense. You're getting a more athletic guy. That's why they're at tackle. There's no reason not to be more athletic at guard. It just doesn't make any sense. Move a tackle down to guard. And look at what's we've gone through this. Like I said, going back to Cooper with Jim Tressel and with Urban Meyer recruiting tackles. We got all these tackles because that Urban Meyer just wasn't recruiting guards. We don't. It's just no. And another thing, like Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson is an athletic enough to play tackle. He's just not long like you want in a tackle. Matthew Jones was a better defensive lineman in high school than he was on offense. He didn't play that much offense until I think his senior year, maybe his junior year, but I'm only certain that he played offense his senior year. So and he moved to guard because he just wasn't a long enough guy to stay on defense. But yeah, this has been going on forever. And in the NFL, look at what happens. They draft offensive tackles. They're not getting it done out there. What do? They kick them down to guard. This is the way to do this. Guards at guard. If you find an exceptional one like Davis, who was just loved him, loved Donovan Jackson, but they are
Wyatt
exceptions.
Davis.
You recruit tackles and slide them down to guard. Pardon me? Wyatt Davis. I'm
Wyatt
sorry.
Davis.
Forgot to throw
All
his
right.
first name out there.
Yep. Let's hit this question, and those of you watching can see Spider Sillery. Good Lord. Spider Sillery. Duane has a question. What is your biggest concern for this year's team?
We've got a new defensive coordinator whose defense he needs good safeties. And I don't know how good we are at safety. We are cornerback U. Nobody's going to argue that. Nobody's going to argue that. We've got cornerbacks from Ohio State all over the NFL, all over the first round of the draft. We have not done so with safeties. Malik Hooker has been easily the best safety we put out, and before that it was Von Bell. So we're just not. We got to be better at safety for this to be the defense that we want it to be. Hopefully, we had a couple of guys last year that got hurt. Turrentine is one that jumped out at me on film as a high school player. He got hurt relatively early, and Dunn, another two long athletic safeties that we could bring in, and we got a kid that already knows Noel's defense coming in. I think that could be huge. You're not going to have to teach him anything. He can teach the other defensive backs, but safeties are going to be important to what he likes to do out there. And I'm unsure about what we got, Buckeye Nation. I don't know.
Ed Rogers asks, where do you expect our two tackles to go in the draft? I will handle this. That's Nicholas Petit-Frere and Thayer Mumford. We talked a little bit earlier about versatility, or at least tackles playing guard. I know that Mumford is actually benefiting from the fact that he can do both. I think he's probably a third or fourth round draft pick based on what I have seen. Nicholas Petit-Frere will get picked somewhere in the middle of the second round. I haven't heard as much about him recently, which leads me to believe there's actually more interest in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the first half of the second round. All right, let's see if we can hit some more questions here. Hold on one sec. Duane,
I wanted to throw out there that we're overlooking the fact that we got a starting safety coming back in Proctor. That's one that I'm very happy about. So, but still, I want to see us better at safety. We have to be to make Noel's defense work the way he wants it to work.
PDX Buckeye asks, why won't Duane show his face on the video? We've already discussed that. It has to do with the police and naked jaunts. We cannot get a digital profile out there that they can trace. Otherwise, no more jaunts in the nude, which would be a shame. Let's see here. Let's try this one. Spider Celery again, Duane. Who's your prediction for the best true freshman in the spring game and the season, and are they different players?
Best true freshman. Wow. Hadn't really put any thought to who it might be.
I can
I
tell you who I
hope
hope it is. I hope it's Devin Brown.
Yeah, that would be huge. That that this kid comes in and makes us forget about that mess last year. I'm not even going to bring up the name. That would be huge if Devin Brown came in and really helped us out.
Mark, so we've been accused of drinking here early on the show, which is just tomfoolery and hijinks, of course, because a coffee cup is nothing but coffee. But there you go. Ed Rogers thinks CJ Hicks will be the most impactful freshman. I think so. CJ is going to be making a transition just because what he was asked to do on his high school team, he was asked to do a whole lot. He was spread out. So focusing in on one thing will probably be better for him. All right, Duane, we will finish with this. Who gets the last question here? Mark Stowers. How did stud Greg Stadrawa go from being a great coach to being moved on? How does that happen?
Oh, I don't. I never was overly impressed with him, so you're asking the wrong guy. Now, I go back to this that I remember from when he was hired that he was at LSU previously, and someone sent me to the LSU board where they were laughing their butts off that we had taken him. So, we didn't get it done when we needed to. Michigan we were soft. Let's be honest, to beat us. They beat us at the line of scrimmage. We couldn't move the ball, couldn't run the ball. It was ugly enough that you say, okay, we got to do something else. And finally, it ran its course, and we're going to see if Justin Fry can do better.
All right, I'm going to finish here with the last question. What player or players do you think are going to shine that most of Buckeye Nation doesn't know about yet? It's very difficult given the fact that there's about 50 websites that cover the team in detail, and we argue over things like the third string running back. But I will say just that. I think Evan Pryor is going to turn some heads in the spring game first and then be a very valuable player out of the backfield. I think you're going to see 3 backs get featured this year. Obviously, Travion Henderson will be the main guy. You got Meatball back there. But I do think Evan Pryor is going to show everybody that he's a tremendous recruit. We appreciate Duane stopping by. We appreciate all of the questions. We appreciate everything you guys have given us here. We are working out the kinks here in our live production, and we appreciate your patience. Don't forget, Buckeyes will be in action on the hardwood tomorrow just after noon. We will be around. We will be there with bells on. Both Steve Hellwagen and Pat Murphy are on their way to Pittsburgh to cover the team. So keep it locked in, Bucknutters. Have a good one.